Good morning. It's September 1st, and if you're watching on the replay, that probably means you slept in a little bit because we are here on Coaches Go Social 1 hour before we usually are, thanks to my wonderful guest that lives in New York that had an opening at the last minute for her to be on my show. I'm so excited. This is the month we're starting with personal branding. So if you are a life coach, if you're a business coach, you are at the forefront of your business. And there's nothing more important to have you be seen on social consistently and be memorable. And a big part of that is your personal branding. And that's why I'm focusing this entire month on bringing on guests and experts that specifically focus on personal branding and what you can do to make your brand really stand out. I am super excited to have my guest on the show today. My name is Amy Iram. I'm the founder of Capitalize Social Media. I help life and business coaches gain visibility and increase impact using Facebook and Instagram marketing tactics at work. And without further ado, I'm going to bring on my guest after this quick little video. Yay, I am so glad. I'm going to bring on Christine right now, and we were going to get started. Yay! So excited that you're here.
I'm happy to be here.
Yay, this is going to be fun. This is such an important topic for any entrepreneur, especially if you're at the forefront of your business. But we talk a lot about life coaches and business coaches and how just to make your business really stand out. And I'm super excited to have you on to talk about this today. So if you're here watching with us live, make sure to comment, say hi. Let us know what questions you have. Exactly. Comment below. Let us questions you have about personal branding, anything from what you should do or how you want to go about either changing or refreshing or starting your personal brand. That's what we're going to talk about today. So why your personal brand is so important to your coaching business, how it can build trust, and 3 things you can do to start or refresh your personal brand. And I wanted to say a real quick hi to Tim Zone. He's here. He's a loyal viewer of Coaches Go Social, and we're so glad to see you here, Tim. Yay. So without further ado, Christine, please introduce yourself. Tell us more about you. And I can't wait to have this conversation. Yay!
Hi there. I'm like tinkering with my white balance here. I'm using my B Squad camera. I had some technical difficulties this morning. But I am Christine Gritmon, and I'm Christine Gritmon Inc., really. And what I do is I help empower small business owners to tell their own stories online. And so that traditionally has meant teaching them how to use social media, training them how to use it strategically, but also easily and simply. And I'm also moving more into the personal branding sphere now, because that's always where it starts. That's always where my work with clients starts. And it occurred to me that I should spin it off as its own thing, because sometimes there's people like fellow marketers, for example, who know how to use social media. They understand that part. They don't need me for that, but they don't know how to put themselves into it, or they're a little weird and hesitant about putting their own personal brand forward in a meaningful way. So I am here to help people do that.
Yay, I think it's so important. I know that it's so important. And I titled this Personal Branding 101 because it's our first show of the month, and also because I want to kind of back up a little bit and talk about, what personal branding is. Let's do a little overview quickly, and why it's so important. I think that we automatically think personal branding is a million different things. Some people associate social media and branding as the same thing, which is totally different. Mm-hmm. You need branding to enhance your social media, and it's more than just some colors and maybe a tagline, right? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so personal brand ultimately is what people think of when they think of you, and that can be tied to what you do for a living. It can be you as a person. Every person on earth has some degree some kernels of what could become a personal brand. If you've ever had someone say to you, oh, I saw this thing at a shop and just thought of you, or someone forwards you something online and says, this was totally you, I thought of you instantly. That's the beginnings of the sort of thing that ultimately can make up your personal brand. And so what a personal brand really is just that compilation of things that not only make people think of you, but that also are recognizably you. In terms of social media, it's good for people to be able to know that something is from you even before they see your name. It's good for when people see something that is you to know that they've seen something from you before. It's good to be familiar so that every time someone is exposed to you, your content, your face, anything, they're able to sort of file it away into an existing mental file of this is Christine, as opposed to feeling like they're meeting you from scratch every single time because they don't remember you.
That totally makes sense. And I'm going to say that I'm a little bit like Tim here. He says, I'm weird and hesitant. Although I will say that Tim has branded himself as the Dunkin' Donuts guy for sure. Whenever I see Dunkin' Donuts, I'm like, oh my gosh, there was like some weird like ad or coupon or something in some app that I saw, and I sent it to him. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're gonna love this, right? Like he's talked about Dunkin' Donuts, he's his obsession and all that kind of stuff so much that that's what I associate with him now. So how do we figure that out? Like, what do we do to kind of decide what we want to be known for?
Well, Tim's a really good example, actually, because the fact is he doesn't work for Dunkin' Donuts, right? They're not a client of his. He's not in corporate. It's just a part of him personally. It is an element of his personal self that people who know him well would recognize as him. And so that's a really great example of your personal brand doesn't have to be about what you do. It doesn't. The color red is my jam. What does red have to do with being a social media strategist? Absolutely nothing. It's just me. So that's one big thing to keep in mind, the fact that it doesn't have to relate directly to what you do. It's all about just familiarity, and it's all about something you can maintain. So if something is genuine, if something's legitimately from within you, like Tim is legitimately going to Dunkin' Donuts all the time, that's not hard for him to maintain. You just share it. That's really ultimately what personal branding comes down to. Who are you already? What can you amp up by sharing it more? That's really what it's all about. And you can tie it to professionalism, certainly. And you should ultimately not make it hard for people to figure out what exactly you do. But, when it comes down to it, personal branding is not the same as branding a product or a company. It's similar in that also products and companies are also starting to realize the value of branding on an emotional level and on a human level and on a giving people something to latch onto and relate to level, as opposed to always being about the product or always being about making sales. But that's really what it is, an emotional resonance, something that sort of leaves a little imprint on people in some fashion. And the ways to figure it out are, what do people associate with you? When people approach you and say, hey, this reminded me of you, or hey, I thought of you with this, what are those things? What are those things that you want it to be? What are things that appeal to you that have some resonance with you already? And maybe they're not part of you already, but it's not a stretch for them to become so. What are those things? Also think about not just how the people who know you well would describe you. It's also very important to see what that surface level stuff is that people who don't know you that well think of you with, because the fact is that's showing what rises to the surface. That shows what really stands out. It's one thing for my husband or my best friend or my family to associate things with me. It's another thing entirely for someone who met me once to be like, okay, this is what really stuck out. So don't discount the full spectrum of people who have encountered you when figuring out what stands out.
Definitely. I love that explanation. And it really can be anything. It doesn't have to be something like specific to your brand. In fact, it's probably better that it's not. I'm going to go out on a limb in here and say Pickles is not Dunkin' and Pickles. He's known for Dunkin' and Pickles. He's trying to put the pickles on me. That's not my thing. That's a whole other show in itself. But yeah, that was a whole other show. That was on his Shout Out Saturday. No, tell us about your shows, Tim. What's the name of your shows? I can't remember the Wednesday. I was on there on a LinkedIn Live show with him and Brian Schulman a couple weeks ago.
Voice Your Vibe.
Yes.
Is his jam. Yeah.
It was the Dual Wednesday show.
Snap lenses. Snap lenses.
Yes.
You became Pickle. Yep.
And then they became Pickles at the same time. So it was me and two Pickles. Yes. But I'm not going to adopt that one. It was
that's another thing to point out about brand, which is it doesn't have to be something completely original. I mean, he and Brian aren't inventing and programming snap filters. They exist already. However, when I see a snippet of a live stream with people having snap filters on, I don't have to look to see it was posted by Brian or by Tim to know that that's Voice Your Vibe, because they've made it kind of a thing where people go on with the snap lenses. How many other live streams are doing that? Not many. It's become part of their brand, but it's not something they had to invent. It's not something that needs to be proprietary. It's not something that they need to be the only ones who own. They've just made it theirs.
Yeah, that's so true. Allie says she was lucky and blessed to intern at a local branding studio in college. Appreciate the power branding can bring. Yes, Allie is a multifaceted entrepreneur with lots of different businesses that she's working on. So it's great to know that you have that branding experience in your back pocket, because that'll really help you.
And if she's got lots of businesses, that's the way to have them not cannibalize each other, right?
Yes.
It's making sure each has a distinct brand, and maybe they could strengthen each other if there's sort of a common thread going on, but making things distinct is really pretty important there, I'd imagine.
Definitely. And yes, Tim, you do have a brand, whether you like it or not. And I think that's important to talk about too. Oh, here, Marissa's here too. Hey, yes, everyone has a brand. Everyone has a brand, whether you know it or not. And that's the thing, is talking about personal branding is so important, and making sure that we're aware of the messages that we're sending out, because whether or not people learn it from us or they make it up on their own, there is a story to be told about us. And that's what we want to be. And we want to be able to tell the story that people are going to share about us, not have them make it up on their own. So how does our personal brand build trust? I think we kind of already talked about that, but let's take it up a notch and kind of talk about that, because building trust is key, of course, when you have a business.
Exactly. And I always go back to this Bob Berg quote. And I actually spoke to Bob Berg recently on LinkedIn, and I said, you know what? I quote this so much, I might get a tattoo of it. Know, like, and trust. People don't buy from companies. They buy from people who they feel like they know, like, and trust. And so what that comes down to is the know part is they recognize you. They know they've seen you before. They know who the heck you are. You know, they know that I'm Christine Gritmon. Maybe they don't. Maybe now they do. So that's the know part, just the recognizability factor. And part of that comes from having those common threads, so that if they have seen you before, they know that they have, or they remember you. The like factor comes from putting your personality into it, giving people something that resonates, something that connects on a human level. And it doesn't have to connect with everybody. This is really, really key. It can turn the wrong people off. That's fine. You just want to vibe with the right people. So then that comes to the trust. Trust really is about, first of all, people feel like they're connecting with a human as opposed to just a brand with an agenda. We don't trust things that are on a straight up business level. As consumers, we've become very savvy. Marketing is everywhere, and we know it. We recognize marketing nowadays. So the more human and real and consistent you can be in your branding and how you show up, the more people are going to trust that it's legit. They're going to trust, okay, this is a real person. This isn't just a branding message. This is a real human who I feel some degree of connection with, because you've given them something to connect with. And the more they see you show up in a consistent manner, the more they're going to trust that that's genuine, that's legitimate, and that's you. Furthermore, if you show up in a generous way, if you show up repeatedly in a way where you're giving useful information to people, or you're giving tips, or you're even just sharing your vulnerabilities, the more people will say, they gave me that advice, or they gave me that tip, or they put that thought in my head, and it turned out to be a positive thing for me. So now I trust this person's expertise. So that's another really key part of branding. What messaging are you putting out there? What value are you putting out there that people can actually benefit from? Because then they'll trust that you are an expert because you've benefited them. They trusted you and it worked out.
Totally. Yeah, that connection is key, right? And that's why I talk about this with, with the life and business coaches that I help, because they are at the forefront of their business. And especially when we talk about, starting, they're to be on live video is a huge advantage because you're able to build that know, like, and trust factor way in advance before you potentially even meet someone. And then for them to be able to see you and get to know you and then call you and be like, oh, can you help me? Then you already have that connection. It's like this, you have a huge lead on that connection too. So it's really, everything coming together with that know, like, and trust factor.
It's
for
kind
sure.
of like I met my husband online. I met him on Match.com.
I met my husband on eHarmony. Oh my gosh. That's funny.
I like to say I ordered my husband online. I put in what I wanted and the algorithm spat him out, and thank God it did. But what I always said about online dating is it was kind of like you were starting on like the third or fourth date by the time you actually met, because you already knew so much about each other. He and I, we already knew that each of us looked forward to getting married and having kids someday. We both knew that we shared common interests. We both knew we shared common values. There's a lot of stuff that you sort of get in advance right out of the gate so that you sort of start out at a more interested level. And it sounds like a weird stretch, but the fact is live video is very similar, and online content and social media engagement is very similar, because by the time someone meets you, or even by the time they're ready to make a purchase decision, whether they met you or not, they have a lot of information already. So by the time they decide to engage with you, they're a little bit more like in it. I feel.
Totally. That's a great analogy. I might have to borrow that one with
the go for
twist to it. That's a really good one, because you're really allowing having that head start of that connection. And that's really giving you and your business an advantage. And coaching is so personal. You have to connect. You have to be able to get along with that person. And that's what's at the forefront, I think, of really a good partnership when it comes to any life or business coaching, for sure. So there's a lot of people here. Thank you so much, you guys. We're so glad that you're here. We're going to go through some comments here real quick. And Marissa says, what if we don't have a show? Do we have a brand? My answer is yes. Totally agree. Yes. I say you have an extra brand. If you have a personal brand, automatically you've got your business brand, and then you have a show. It's its own kind of brand in itself, basically. So
you can share your brand in so many different ways. The fact is, if you're not someone who wants to do a show, then that's totally genuine and on brand for you to not do one. There's a million ways to show up. There's plenty of people who they really show up in their writing. For example, they really don't want to do video. They don't want to, do this all, they don't want to do crazy GIFs like I do because they don't have my personality. But the fact is they show themselves in their writing, or they show themselves in the type of engagement that their content generates, or they show themselves in the content they curate. Even the people whose voices they share, the people they raise up, the people they admire and want to share with their audiences. So you can absolutely share a lot of yourself with your audience without hopping, without hopping on camera and showing your face on video. I do think people should show some degree of their face as part of a personal brand.
Oh, yeah.
Because as humans, we're hardwired to connect with human faces. We're hardwired to connect with eye contact. If someone's making eye contact with you, even though I'm literally just making eye contact with a webcam right now, I'm sending energy that a lot of people are probably picking up on, because the fact is eye contact is a powerful biological response, and it works on still images too. So
Absolutely.
I do recommend showing your face. Not only so you can have that hardwired biological connection, but also so that people know who you are. It's kind of great, to meet someone in real life and have them say, oh, I follow you online. I totally know who you are. And it's even better when then after spending time with me, they say, you're exactly like I thought you would be.
Yes. Oh, that's the best, really for sure. It is. Yes. And Tim says consistency is magic. And a little known fact, maybe you don't know this, capitalized social media. That's the whole reason I named my business Capitalized. CAP is an acronym for consistency and purpose. And we have to have that. That is true. Yes, consistency of purpose. I'm all about consistency with marketing and again with branding, all those things coming together. It makes the magic of your brand. So yes, and I just launched a new group too, the Consistent Content Club for life and business coaches, talking all about marketing and how to make sure that we're staying consistent, keeping our message very clear. So
Love that.
it's awesome. Here, Brian's here. Oh, Allie says, let's see what Allie says. I've had to think about branding for each different business because customers for her art are more colorful and for her digital editing customers more professional. So it's great. And I think she brings up a really good point because you have to know who your ideal audience is, like who your business is fit for to be able to really appeal to them also.
Yeah,
so that's a really good point. Exactly. That's a really, really good point. Value like this amazing live show, Tim. Oh, you're just too kind. Oh my goodness. Oh my, Marissa met her husband on MySpace. That's so funny. And Tim met his wife on eHarmony. Shout out to eHarmony Match and all the harmonies. Shout out to everybody.
I shouldn't be too surprised that online folks
met their significant other online. That is a good correlation. I agree. Although Allie's not technically an online folk, but she's here. She met her husband online as well. Yeah,
she's on the interwebs.
She's on the interwebs. That's true. Brian's here. Brian's in the house. Yes, we're talking about you and Voice Your Vibe for sure.
Is he a
pickle? The pickles, exactly. The pickles. Oh my goodness. Voice Your Michael Jackson, Brian Schumann. They do all sorts of fun things. Oh my gosh. Well, I only got Christine for like 5 more minutes because she's got to run off somewhere to go do her Twitter chat. But,
I was about to say, where do I have to run off to, Amy? Let's talk about that.
I know, we're just having too much fun here. You can't leave us. Oh my gosh, this is too fun. Yes. Oh gosh. Patty's here.
Hi.
Who are you talking to? I think she's referring back to our conversation of definitely about branding. If you're branding your business, you need to know who you're talking to for sure. That is so true. So we're going to end with
who I am. I mean, maybe she's late to the party.
She might be that. Yeah, Patty does a lot of note taking during our shows. I'm thinking that was it, but it could be that too. And I don't know why our names aren't showing up here. And I've been clicking around trying to figure that out the whole time. Usually your name is just on the bottom, Christine Gritmon. Oh my gosh.
That's
everyone
all
has
right.
to know you.
It's a technical difficulties day. I'm having technical difficulties myself, as you know. It's funny, everyone. I was talking to Amy right before this, and I was a hot mess, you guys. And I said, don't worry. As soon as we go live, I'll be sparkling. But I was a hot mess right before we got on live.
Live video. Everything is fair game.
My tech just was not working.
It is so, it's there's always something that happens, but we go with it. It's just part of the fun. So last but not least, if you can give us 3 tips. We've already covered a lot of tips, but if you're looking to start your personal brand or refresh your personal brand, what are 3 things we could do right now? I think I want to start with the one is integrate your personality, your physical pictures of you and things like that. I think that's one of the biggest things is that the content about you personally and your face and people in general, that content always does the best. So that's number 1. I'm going to start with that one. What are 2 more things we could do to start or refresh our brand?
Well, to add to that too is get over the fact that people feel like they look weird in pictures. People feel like, oh, I have a weird smile. It's like too cheesy. Everybody feels that way. Get over it. Get used to it. You have to show your face. You just have to show up in your life. Show up and show your face. So that's one thing that I would say. Another thing is don't get so hung up on what you think people want you to be or what you think you should be or this like professional veneer that you want to put forth. Don't get so caught up in the image because you will find that very standard you're trying to, acclimate to, that's not the right word, but you know what I mean, won't make you unique, won't make you stand out. That's like the whole point. It's like middle school, right? No one wants to stand out in middle school. Everyone just wants to conform in middle school. But the fact is, don't be in middle school, you guys. Recognize that what makes you different, what makes you quirky, what makes you unique, what makes you real is what's going to make you stand out. It's what's going to resonate with the right people because ultimately you don't need to please everyone. You need to please the right people, and you yourself are one of the right people. So don't be afraid to kind of let your freak flag fly and just be who you are, because the more you try to conform and present an image, the more it's going to come across as an image, not as a human. And then the third thing that I would say is speak out and promote more than feels natural. This is another thing people really struggle with when it comes to branding themselves in a space, making a name for themselves, being memorable. People are very, very concerned about posting too much about themselves. They feel like that it's kind of uncouth in a way, but they also feel like people are going to get sick of them, because people forget about algorithms. People forget that nobody is seeing everything you do. Nobody. I have super supportive parents who are online all the time, and they don't even see everything that I do, because algorithms, right? All of the social media platforms, Google, search, all of these things are controlled by algorithms. Not everyone is seeing everything. So do a little bit more than feels natural or normal or polite, and make sure that the people who actually need to connect with you get a chance to. Like, step up your posts this week, right now. This week, I challenge everybody here to do three things right now. It's a new week. It's a new month. Happy September, by the way. 1, post a picture or a video of yourself, definitely at some point this week. 2, share something that isn't cookie cutter. Share something that is not the norm. It can be a personal vulnerability. It can be a little quirk. It can be something you're personally into that maybe people don't know that you're into. Share something personal and real that's not just like professional veneer. And number 3 is definitely step up your post. If you posted twice last week, post 4 times this week on whatever platform. Just push it just a little more than you're comfortable with, and see what it does for your reach, your engagement, and your connections.
Oh, that's great advice. Yes, consistency is key, and we've got to show up consistently. Yes, that was it. Mic drop for sure. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for being here and sharing your.
This was so great. Such a great way to. I mean, it's like 11 something here, but the fact is, it's almost noon here. Wow, but it's a great way to start my day. And so far as I spent the morning wrestling with tech, so it's nice to get back into this vibe and be back in my comfort zone with you, Amy.
Yay, I'm so glad. Yeah, it's a great way to start the month, great way to start the morning. It's earlier here in California, so thank you for everyone for being here. And if you watch the replay and you have questions about branding, feel free and continue to ask questions. We'll be here in the comments. But how can we all, I know how I'm connected with you, but how would you like everyone to connect with you and find you online?
I'm really easy to find because I'm the only Christine Gritmon. It's spelled Grit like when something's gritty, and MON like Monday. And so I'm very easy to find. I'm C Gritmon on Instagram and Twitter. And in fact, I'm about to go launch my first ever Twitter chat, just Tuesdays at noon Eastern time on Twitter. So yeah, C Gritmon on Twitter and Instagram, Christine Gritmon Inc. on Facebook, Christine Gritmon on LinkedIn.
Yay. Thank you so much. We got some great, awesome nuggets. Great chat. Thanks for being here, everybody.
Thanks for having me.
So I'm like personally inspired to go explode my personal brand now too. So I'll be looking for everyone's, everyone's updates and things like that too. So stay tuned for next Tuesday. We'll be talking personal branding again. Tuesday, 9:30 Pacific time is where we're usually at. So make sure to change your clocks and set your alarm for 9:30 this time, and we'll see you then. Bye, everybody.